We've been collecting sap for about a week, and you can see there's a little bit of sap down here at the bottom, and this is a smaller tree, so you can expect a little bit. Then we'll go ahead and pour it into a second bucket. We'll fill this up with all the other buckets we have around the woods and then take one down. This winter has been a little bit more of a warm winter, so I'm not sure how well this season will go. We've got the sap cauldron here covered so the rainwater doesn't come in. Now we'll go ahead and pour in the stuff we just got from the woods. We brought these buckets inside just so we could start letting them thaw out a little bit and the ice was gonna melt, but now it's been boiling about all day and we're gonna add these back into the cauldron. Now we can go ahead and add these and see just how much has boiled down. Now we'll go ahead and lift off the chimney here. And it can be a little tricky to see where the level is since there's a lot of steam coming off here. It's almost like a full boil, but every once in a while it'll open up enough in a spot where you can actually see it. It's a little hard to see, but it's about halfway down, so it's boiled off a pretty good amount, about half of it. Now we can go ahead and dump this in. Now it probably will splash because we've got a big ice block in there. Now I'm gonna go ahead and add some more wood in there, get that burning really hot. Since we just added some ice in there, it'll take a little bit to get it boiling again. So we're back up here and you can see this is almost completely full and it's definitely frozen. It's almost frozen solid. I mean, take a look at this one. This one here is almost full as well. And you can see this bucket here is almost overflowing. Actually, it is overflowing. You don't want to see your buckets overflowing because that means you're losing some sap. It's coming in and it's going out. One nice thing about these buckets being frozen is if you fall, which you most likely will, especially if it's on a steep hill, all the sap doesn't just come pouring out. Some people actually will just take this ice out here and just throw it out and then boil the stuff underneath. There is a little bit of sugar in the ice. It's not quite as much as the sap that's underneath, but if you're not in a hurry, I think it's worth it just to melt down the ice and boil it down with everything else. All right, we'll start putting some sticks under here so we can start the fire and start the process of boiling down the sap. So we'll start it with smaller sticks and then work our way up to larger sticks. So I came out in the morning and there were still some live coals, so I pushed some sticks in and the fire actually started to come up again. So you can see throughout the night it did continue to go down and it's starting to get maybe about a quarter left. We still don't have to worry about it burning yet. That's only once it starts getting down to the very bottom. We're probably going to add a little bit more sap in today. And you can actually see that it's still hot enough where steam is coming off the water. So the sap is still flowing. You can see that these have started to melt now. And we can go ahead and keep pouring them in. And we'll collect it from the other trees as well. The sap that's in here is really starting to smell good. Now we're gonna add some more sap to the mixture. Boiling, and what we've been doing is once the level starts getting lower, we'll go up and get the sap from the woods and keep pouring it in, and then it just keeps getting stronger. This chimney that goes on top here is what keeps the smoky flavor out of the maple syrup, so the smoke doesn't come up from the fire and in. This kind of keeps it separated. So we let the fire burn down last night because we didn't want this burning uncontrolled during the night. And you can see the sap is getting really close, it's getting concentrated, and it'll probably only go down maybe another inch or two before it's done and we can pour it off into sap. You can see that there's still some smoke coming off of the log here, so there's still hot coals that were left here from yesterday. So if we put some other sticks in, maybe a little bit of a fire starter, this will start to reignite the fire. Now I'm going to splash some of this fire starter, which is actually just really used motor oil. We don't want to get too much in here because we don't want all of that motor oil smoke going into this maple syrup, but just a little bit in there will help keep the fire started. You want to keep this just really low heat once it gets to this point because you can burn it when it gets here, so we just want to make sure, like right now it's done. We just want to take the heat off and Make sure it doesn't burn. If you need to go a little bit more, then you just need to be careful when you do it. Now we'll just rake out those coals. I just tried some of this syrup and it's just like amazing. It's like the best syrup I've ever had. With this smokestack on there, I don't taste any of a smoky flavor in here. It took us a few years to figure out how to keep the smoky taste out, and this really does its job, and it just keeps the two things separate. Go ahead and lift this out and pour it into our pot. All right, so now we'll pour it through this filter here. While this is still warm, we'll go ahead and put it through a much finer filter. It's almost like a paper coffee filter, except reusable. And we'll just keep rinsing out this filter. So if we boiled it down a little bit too much, it's a little bit too thick, so we're gonna have to add a little bit of water. All right, so I'm just gonna pour a little bit in at a time. We don't wanna overdo it. If you boil it down too much, like we actually did this last year, and everything starts to crystallize into the bottle. Like if it's super, super thick, it'll be really good, it'll be super sweet, but it'll just start crystallizing, and some of it you might not be able to get to use, though if it starts crystallizing, you could just microwave it or put it in hot water. Even with that water, this still tastes almost the exact same. It's still super strong. Even with some of that water in there, this still tastes amazing. We'll go ahead and filter it a second time as we put it into the jars. It's just amazing that with all those buckets of sap that we got, there was a lot of sap. It boils down to just this little amount, and it's amazing how concentrated the sugar is just from the sap of trees. It takes about 40 gallons of sap from the trees to make just 1 gallon of the syrup. So here's our produce from this year. We got 4 full jars of maple syrup. This stuff is amazing. It's very sweet, and it has just that unique maple syrup flavor. It's a lot of work, but it's definitely worth it, and it's a lot of fun.